So we will have an opportunity to now ask questions. Also, as I mentioned before, on the panel, you should feel fine to ask each other questions or comment. Michael, question on the business aspect, and you mentioned something, and maybe I'm not sure I understood quite correctly. So obviously very impressive that you're able to reduce the time in half. And so you're able to keep those time savings, the benefits of those time savings financially for you for the time being? Did I hear right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah,
all right. So, because that's something I often hear from many people. Very nice, Martin, you make us more efficient, and well, then we bill fewer hours. So thank you. Not so much thank you, But okay, so that's a more interesting proposition then for everybody. Yeah. The one thing, and the question there, one thing I was wondering from Evelyn, I thought you were focused on permitting, fire protection permitting, right? Why are construction companies doing the test case?
Because in that moment, they actually act as the client. So the construction companies tell the architect and the fire protection planners that they want to do it. So they're actually on the client side in this particular case. And with no client, usually it's not going to go. So the architects are fearing more work, so they are not open to test it. So I don't know, but the big company said, yeah, we're going to test it. We want to see if that works, because that's going to help us. We have a lot of projects. It's going to be always the same information. Why shouldn't we test that? Mm-hmm. So for me, that shows the importance of the client. Mm-hmm. In this case, it's the big construction company.
Yeah, okay. Interesting attitude. Since we, sorry, I can't help the reflection, since in everyday life we experience that since we have more digital technologies, we have to spend a lot more time on everything, right? Anyway, sorry for the facetious comment. All right, there is a question. So yeah, volunteers, when I point you need to, get in position.
Hello. Yep, great presentation. Thank you so much. My name is Shichi Liu from the United States with Hathaway Dinwiddie General Contractor. Just to piggyback to Professor Fisher's question, I have a question for Martin. You mentioned that you try to automate your workflow by bridging different tools, and you also mentioned the collaboration between your PM and software engineer. Just per our own experience, a lot of time will take some scripting, say, between Revit and Excel. We're using Dynamo to extract and import the quantities and all that for estimating, and also probably with some JavaScripts, again, just to streamline the process. Just curious, according to your experience, what's the role of your software engineer in terms of bridging different tools and how to make things more efficient? And I also have another question for Evelyn.
Let's go with this question.
For sure.
And then
absolutely.
Yeah.
So the role of the software engineer is really to first step one, to understand how the process works, let's say the analog way, typing what information to and what moment into what spreadsheet. And then with this knowledge, he can automate first this step, but also then what the outcome is, the expected result, and where has it to be placed. So he then knows the tools and knows what wheel to turn on to adjust the information flow. The software engineer has the main role, but as I mentioned, we did this in very small steps. So the project manager always double-checked what he programmed, and then he really could tick in a box when everything was fixed, or when the software engineer did something wrong. We could easily adjust this. So without this software engineer, we wouldn't be able to use those tools now like we use them nowadays.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So then you had another question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. So Evelyn, so out of curiosity, since it appears like you create a lot of rules based on the zones, during the design phase, do you automate your design process based on those rule-based approach? And do you think if there's a possibility, if so, you can introduce those rules to the authorization, say the cities, so they basically can reverse engineer the whole process to expedite their permitting process?
If I understood your question right, we don't have today automation with that, but it's actually the goal, yes. So if we have the requirements on the rooms that we are going to model anyway, because we as an architect, we base mostly on the rooms, at least for the designing and the requirements. So then we're exploring that. And I think technically it's obviously doable, but we're not there yet. But we want to have the requirements on the rooms, and then the BIM model for the fire protectionist could be generated automatically, right? So in between those two zones with different requirements, you need to have a wall that meets this requirement. So that's the goal, but to be honest, we're not there. But that should be it. And then we can check this against each other, and that would be the thing.
Yeah. So a question in the front here. In the meantime, I wanted to check something with Inge. For me, it was really super impressive to see what you can do when everybody's in the BIM, and also the work plan is digitized, and the insights you can gain. And you showed sort of the metrics. I don't know if you can share a specific surprise you had in terms of a group of people that was working particularly well or not so well, without naming any particular names, of course. I'm just curious if you had an anecdote from, related to those graphs you showed of metrics.
Yeah. So what I probably didn't say is kind of we are in a transition phase from kind of one project phase to another right now, and we can see that quite quickly reflect kind of in the metrics that we have, and also I would say that kind of general reflection is, like I tried to say, in kind of the end, yes, there are sort of some disciplines that show some tendency not to kind of be as upfront or forthcoming. That isn't necessarily due to the discipline itself, but what we do see is kind of that the management in the project as well, when it relates to changes in the schedule, directly affects kind of how people are able to adopt that change. So it's very, very important to kind of emphasize and prioritize and spend time on communicating changes to the plan. So this is a project with a very, very, very tight schedule. And I think already kind of there are targets for reducing time on scheduled deliveries by at least 20% in the schedule compared to similar projects. So it's kind of a difficult task as it is. And what we do see is communication and how changes are actually communicated internally is very important.
Yeah, thanks. There's a question here in the front, and then over there.
I'm George Webb from Seattle. We're a vertically integrated multifamily company. We have our own design studio and our contracting license. We also do property management. Our vision is affordable living for everyone. We're trying to bring scale to wood frame multifamily housing. My question for you is, we are starting our design studio. We're about 8 people now. We do not have a VDC lead yet. What should we be looking for in terms of skill set, character attributes for someone in that position? And do you guys have any ideas on where I might kind of recruit, if you will, to find that job?
There are a few of our students who graduated or will soon graduate that have had some of these classes here. Yeah, but I don't know, maybe Øystein or Vegard, because you have quite a bit of experiences personally in your companies, but also across the program.
Yes.
Do you have some thoughts?
Yeah, if you're starting to use VDC, as a client myself, we had started with implementing as a, what do you call it, a demand in the contract. that the project itself have to be leaded as a VDC project. And by setting those demands, we are trying to change the industry in that direction. So we are, in Norway, the consultants, the entrepreneurs, contractors, they are starting to get the knowledge to VDC. By this program, VDC program, in collaboration with between NTNU and Stanford, people are getting familiar with the concept, and therefore also people are having the certificate to join the our projects. If that was a did I answer your question or?
So you had one suggestion
Yeah.
in terms of put it in the contract, but then you actually have to really mean it.
We have to mean it,
And you
yeah.
have to be a little bit more, I think, also a bit clear what you expect because of putting that, because we've seen many contracts in the US, you shall use BIM.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
But just to follow up, what's also important, if you have it in the contract, you also need to have the competence in-house. So you can just don't say that, okay, you're going to use, like, we use BIM, as we used earlier, use BIM, and then you got no way of knowledge to using it yourself. If you say you want to use VDC, you also have to have some kind of feeling about it yourself.
A small little comment from my side. I think it's very important that the whole company will be affected by VDC. It's not hiring people and they do the VDC thing and the rest of the company works. So the top management, all the different disciplines, they have to show up on their level with a certain knowledge. Then the role will start to turn. Otherwise, just hiring people or just sending one or two people to a certain course, that's not bringing the big
Thank you, good
gain.
comment.
We can certainly talk a little bit more about that. Yeah. So a question in the front.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Gerardo Matos. I am from Peru. I congratulate for your excellent ponent. And well, I like to ask you to all of ponents, what was the main challenge that have to deal in your projects, and what, in your consideration, what was the BDC components that have to help you for this challenge, and how, a brief description. Thank you.
So, yeah.
At least from my part in our project, I would say actually the most important benefit from doing kind of VDC methodology and processes from the beginning was defining the actual client need and actual client goals. So typically you would get a technical specification and a set of requirements for what purpose kind of this facility might have. But it wasn't necessarily concretized into numbers and factual things that you can control and check. So it's much easier to have a concrete goal to work towards than kind of just prosa text saying, stating kind of we want to be the best facility ever, but not actually being able to put that into numbers. So I would say that's the most important thing. Yeah.
Yeah, barriers and how did you overcome them, especially with the VDC element? What's the question, right?
Yeah. I would also like to say it's VDC, like you said, that you need to make the whole company commit to it. And that's also the same for our project, I would like to say, because it's nothing one person or a couple of person are doing VDC in the project. So you need to educate the group of the designers and those who are going to work closely. What what is it we want to achieve, to make them plan together and make these goals at least. But I would like to say during ICE sessions, we could start with pre-ICE session that we actually educate and put our own company rule or project rules together, so everybody knows or are familiar to what VDC is. That it's nothing, you know, strange three-letter words, something new again.
Yep. So I think we need to rapidly. There's a few more questions quickly. We are not sure we can get to all of them. So quickly, Carlos.
Okay, this goes to Michael. First of all, congratulations to everyone. Excellent presentations. Michael, with those steps that you showed us, you've done, how is the reduction in the cycle time of the design and the decision making? How much was that reduced?
It's hard to say just one figure, but since we are in a complex system, the decision-making process is not related only to us, it's in an overall concept. And so our internal process has been speed up really by, let's say, half for each and every project. And when we have a large project, for sure the scale is bigger, but I would say that when we have to answer a request for information, we are easily, within hours, able to answer those requests. And before, it took us days to sum up the information, to run the calculation, and to show up with the same information. So.
Yeah, and we'll have to conclude after that.
All right. Taylor Gilmore, I'm with Mortensen Construction. Thanks, everyone. One common term I've heard kind of from all the panelists today has been the ICE sessions, and admittedly, it's the first time I've heard of it. And I'm based in the US, I don't know if that's part of it, but it sounds like it's really beneficial and makes a lot of sense to implement with the efficiencies and optimization in the decision-making process. I'm wondering if anyone can offer up tips or tricks, because it does sound like education and understanding of what the ICE sessions are meant to be is maybe part of that. So if someone was just getting started and wanting to implement similar ICE sessions, then any tips?
ICE session, interconcurrence engineering, is about a well-planned meeting. If you were the first and heard Gunnar speaking, you planned what you're going to do, and you have done a lot of research in front of the meeting, that you are well prepared for a meeting. And everyone who is involved in the meeting, they also know what to do, what to plan, what should be decided. The whole agenda is well prepared. We think, and we also see from our students, that just to think through the whole meeting, the whole process by yourself and with the project team does a lot with how you are entering the meeting. Instead of just coming 5 minutes late with a coffee cup and thinking, now it's going to be good with another meeting, just sitting here. You are really sharpened, you are ready to take a decision, and you're so focused that also the time of the meeting itself is reduced a lot. Is that answering? Yeah.
Maybe I can jump in as well.
Perfect, thank you.
So for me, ICE is well like the concurrent engineering. So you get different stakeholders, often from different companies, and you bring them together not to coordinate the work, instead of to do the work. So you create at the table in real time, you take the decisions together, but you create in this meeting. So for me, that's the biggest difference. And in my case, I presented, we couldn't do that with just one company or just one stakeholder of the process. So we sat together in, we call them then workshops, but like for 2 or 3 hours, and then we discuss one topic. What do you need? How could we do that? Is this possible for the architect or for the fire protectionist? So that's like more the concurrent engineering part. That's for me the most important thing about ICE sessions.
And
Great. Yep. Yep.
just to put in also, it's like they said, it should be well prepared. Everybody knows what to discuss and to prepare for the meeting. And sometimes you are not able to make the decision with the information that you were provided. But then we also have something we call breakout session. Maybe split the group into different groups that needs to figure out different solution for problems, and then come together, and then you have the total solution, and maybe then you are ready to make, or the stakeholders are ready to make the right decision because they get more information. So also breakout in our session is important.
But there's many people here that will be glad to tell you more. And maybe others are curious about this as well. I just wanted to end with a question to those of you that have been mentors in the VDC program, where typically around 20 professionals, we call them students, work on their projects, bringing VDC to their projects. What learning have you seen happening between the students? You showed, Vegard and Øystein, you showed several examples. Did those examples, for example, inspire another student from another company? Did you see, or if any of the others that were mentors can recall a specific example where this sort of learning happened that really improves the whole industry? I probably should have asked you, told you before to think about this.
About well-prepared sessions. No, kidding. Of course, when you have 20 students and they are sitting in the same meeting or gathering together, and they see what the other students is achieving in their project, of course, that gains a lot of inspiration. And also, when you hear that the students, maybe not on the highest level in the organization, they are going back and implement VDC in the project for trying it. And they're not always the big project, can be small as well. And they are showing that they could make significant changes, both in time and in cost. And they are giving feedback to us that, okay, no, my boss actually said that this is one of the best way we ever worked. I never thought about it. This is so, it says itself, if you're saving a lot of money, then you have to implement it. But people are afraid of doing new things, so they're just sticking in their own way of working. So, but when they get this small kick to try something new, because they are going on a program, paying a lot of money to enter new and Stanford to do this, they have to try it. And when they then see the result, then they go, whoa, we can save a lot of money if we keep working this way. So that's really inspiring for me as a mentor as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's formally close. A round of applause for our speakers.